The mayor of New York is warning that the city could be destroyed if it doesn't get more help to cope with an influx of migrants. City officials describe a humanitarian crisis, straining resources, filling up shelters, and putting pressure on New York City schools. Among the over 100,000 asylum seekers in New York City are thousands of children going back to school this week.
Are you excited to be back in school?
It's the largest public school system in the country, now educating some 21,000 students living in temporary housing, a number that reflects the increase in migrant families arriving in the city.
We are welcoming all of these new migrant students into our schools with open arms.
Open but strained arms.
This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City.
Mayor Eric Adams has promised a humane response while stressing resources are overwhelmed.
The real issue that we are seeing is not a resource issue. It is actually making sure that we're spending resources appropriately.
Murad Awauda is the executive director of the New York Immigration Coalition, which has worked to help incoming migrant families prepare for the school year.
One thing that we have been fighting for a number of years has been ensuring that we expand programs for English language learners, as well as expanding English language learner transfer schools in New York City. It's a huge need. It continues to be a huge need.
Housing migrant families is also an issue.
Every night, we have to be creative to find places to allow people to stay.
The city has opened 206 emergency shelters in hotels, parks, and buildings. But still, migrants have lined the streets awaiting a bed, one the city government is required to provide to anyone in need under the city's long-standing right to shelter mandate. The influx could cost the city more than $12 billion over 3 years.
This crisis originated with the federal government, and it must be resolved through the federal government.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul took their cause directly to the White House in a meeting last week where she pushed for more money and expanded pathways for migrants to legally work when they arrive. But meaningful solutions likely need congressional approval, leaving an ever-growing number of migrants and their children waiting. And New York City Mayor Eric Adams joins us now. Mr. Mayor, welcome back to the NewsHour.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Let's start with a focus on New York City public schools as classrooms work to accommodate the thousands of newly arrived migrant children, many of whom speak little to no English, many of whom are living in shelters. First of all, how did the first couple of days of school go? And then beyond that, how is the city aiming to meet the immense need of school-aged migrant children in particular?
Well, it went well, extremely well. It's always exciting, the beginning of the school year, watching the optimism, some crying faces, leaving mommy for the first time. But it was extremely smooth transition ending summer. And you know, when you talk about the 20,000 unsheltered children, a large number of them are migrant asylum seekers. We already had 18,000 last year. We need to be clear on that. And we absorbed those 18,000, and we're continually to do what's right. And, you know, it is exciting when you see a child enter the school system at the beginning of the year, not speaking English at all, but leaving at the end of the year, able to communicate in English, learning new ways of learning and interacting, and embracing new friends. So we're going to continue to do our job to educate these scholars and these young people.
Does the city have the capacity and resources to do what you say you want to do, which is to help those young people?
We need more. We've been extremely clear on this. New York City has been carrying this burden for the most part on its own. We commend the governor and the $1 billion she got in the last budget that we have to spend down on. But when you look at what it's costing the city, and not only dollars and cents, but also in man and women power, it is an awesome responsibility. We were creative this year to allow those teachers who are Spanish speakers or dual language to be able to leave and get their, to leave their current assignment if they desire to do so and use their tenure and not lose their tenure. This was a technical issue that we were able to overcome with the state's help. And so we're going to always need more to address this major issue that we're facing here in New York City.
Let's talk a bit more about some of the short-term solutions, because New York is trying to unwind the right to shelter mandate in court, citing the strain that the influx of migrants have put on that system. Both you and the governor of New York want the federal government to expedite work permits so that migrants can support themselves and not be as dependent on the city and state for basic services. What more could the White House do unilaterally, in your view, to help you deal with the pressure and the strain on public resources?
One thing we need to be extremely clear. This is unfair to migrants. It's unfair to New York City residents. It is unfair to this entire country when you're looking at what's happening in big cities across America. Chicago just acknowledging they're moving their migrants out of police precincts and into tents. The same thing you're seeing in Los Angeles and other parts, El Paso, Brownsville. This is just wrong. And what we believe the federal government can do is just simply, one, have a real decompression strategy all over the entire country so cities are not absorbing this issue. And particularly in those areas where you're having these major concerns, there should be a state of emergency that the federal government is calling to make sure that we are getting the support to these cities right away. And this is within the control of the federal government. And then we need to expedite this labor-intensive process of allowing people to have the right to work. And I believe we need to extend the TPS status to give them the right to work so they can provide for their own care. This is all they're asking. Migrants asking to be able to work like every other American that came to this country. That's the precursor to the American dream. And if we don't do that, we are harming not only the migrants, we're creating a black market of employees and workers that is extremely harmful and dangerous to the city and this country.
You're facing some criticism for saying at that town hall this past week that the migrant crisis will, quote, destroy New York City. There are Democrats who accuse you of sounding like a Republican. There are immigration advocates who say that those comments in many ways villainize migrants. What exactly did you mean with those remarks? And also by saying that the city we knew we're about to lose?
Well, let's be clear. I did not say migrants would destroy this city. This crisis is going to harm migrants and it is going to harm long-term New Yorkers. We're all in this together. And many of those who are criticizing, they didn't spend nights in a migrant humanitarian relief center. They have not been down at the hotels. They have not communicated with family members who have lost loved ones. I see on the ground what is happening. This is going to be a $12 billion price tag over three years. This is going to have a major impact on migrants, the delivery of services to them, the delivery of services to longtime New Yorkers who are already struggling. We need to be clear on that. We already had a homeless population. We already had low-income New Yorkers that were struggling to feed themselves and stay into their homes. We are going to transform this city if this is not under control. With a price tag of $12 billion during the time we're going to have a fiscal cliff of federal dollars running out and dealing with the financial challenges we are already facing. We don't get this right, it is going to destroy this city and it's going to harm them. And I cannot sugarcoat this to the New York City public. They need to know what we are facing right now.
Let me ask you this, because there are leaders of border states who say that if this migrant influx is a national crisis, as you say it is, why shouldn't New York, why shouldn't Los Angeles and Chicago have to help shoulder this burden? Why should it all be the responsibility of Texas alone?
And they're right, and I joined them. That's why I went down to El Paso. I communicated with the mayor of Brownsville. I have communicated with the mayor of Houston. They are 100% correct. I share that with them. And that is why those Republicans that have blocked immigration reform for years and have gotten in the way of real immigration reforms. We came close at one time of, yes, this is a problem that the national government must resolve. I say this over and over again. No city should be carrying the weight of a national problem. And so I agree with them 100% that no city should be going through this. And when you look at the numbers that are coming here to New York City, over 110,000 entered our system, we're getting 10,000 a month. That's not sustainable, and it's unfair to those who came here to pursue the American dream.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams, we appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.